Welcome to Narayana IAS Academy. This is Sureka Bhaskar presenting to you the daily news analysis. So for today's discussion, we've picked up a number of articles from The Hindu and the Indian Express which are both important and relevant for the UPSC CSE examination. Now let us have a look at the topics one by one. The first article for the day has been picked up from page number 6 of The Hindu, Disinformation, AI and Cyber Chakravyuh. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about the increasing menace or the threat of digital security issues in 2024, especially focusing on the AI-enabled disinformation, the cyber attacks and the potential impacts of these instances on the global events such as the Olympics, the national security, etc. Moving forward, the second article has been picked up from page number 4 of the Indian Express. Even a woman can be booked as a perpetrator of child sex abuse. High Court in POCSO case ruling. So in this particular article, we'll be looking into the various aspects, the provisions and the dimensions of the POCSO Act, that is the Prevention of Children from Sexual Offences Act of 2012, as well as the recent High Court ruling. The third article has been picked up from page number 8 of the Indian Express. Naveen urges Centre to continue support to the UNESCO Kalinga Prize. So in this particular article, as the title suggests, we'll be discussing about what is this UNESCO Kalinga Prize, as well as we'll be discussing about other relevant awards as well as their fields of application. The fourth article has been picked up from page number 1 of The Hindu. IIT Madras retains top spot in the NIRF ranking for the 6th consecutive year. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about the recently released NIRF ranking for educational institutions in India, and also we'll be discussing about what is this NIRF ranking, that is nothing but the National Institutional Ranking Framework, and what is the methodology involved in the ranking. The last article for the day has been picked up from page number 9 of The Hindu, the tech that helps vehicles from bumping into each other. In this particular article, we will be discussing about the concept of the collision avoidance system given the increasing in the traffic and the higher potential of vehicles from bumping into each other. And towards the end of the session, we will be solving few MCQs as well as the mains practice questions. Now let us get into the discussion. The first article that we'll be discussing for the day is Disinformation, Artificial Intelligence and Cyber Chakravyuh. Okay, so as the article or the title of the article suggests, we'll be discussing about what will be the impact of AI-enabled disinformation, the cyber attacks, etc. What will be the potential impact of these instances on global events such as the Olympics, the national security, etc. And what have been the increasing or what is the status of increasing menace of digital security issues in 2024. So in this particular article, we'll be discussing about the digital security threats as well as it is a part of internal security, and we can map this entire topic to GS paper 3 for the mains examination under challenges to internal security through the communication networks, basics of cyber security, etc. Now moving forward, there has been a previous year question in the year 2021 in the mains examination with respect to that of India's internal security and analyzing the impact of cross-border cyber attacks. Okay. Now, we will understand what this particular article actually talks about, these kind of cyber security issues in India. Now, the evolving landscape of the digital threats in 2024, this actually presents a number of complex challenges to India and also for the global security, for the governance as well as the privacy of an individual. And this actually demands a comprehensive response strategy. Okay. Now moving forward, let us understand the AI as well as disinformation, a new frontier, how this particular artificial intelligence and the disinformation that has actually been generated and spread via AI happens to be, a threat to the global security. This is what we will see. First one, let us understand with respect to that of AI-enabled disinformation. So there has been a rise of the artificial intelligence-driven disinformation where artificial intelligence has actually made it easier in order to create as well as disseminate a lot of disinformation that also appears to be true in nature, that is credible, complicating the efforts to distinguish what is the truth and what is falsehood. And this is actually very much evident from the recent or the 2024 Taiwan elections where the AI generated fake news and videos actually led to the widespread confusion as well as mistrust among the public. Now moving forward, if you actually look at this concept of deep fakes and their impact, deep fakes actually involve digitally manipulated videos, audios, or the images. This has actually become a significant tool for spreading the false information. And this is all enabled by the sophistication that artificial intelligence is actually gained over time. So, the sophistication of these AI-generated media actually makes it very, very difficult to detect the authenticity, whether it is actually true or whether it is a falsehood, leading to potential harm before the truth is actually uncovered. And also, what are the challenges that we actually face in countering this particular AI-enabled disinformation is that it actually is characterized by a rapid spread, okay? So, the rapid spread of disinformation poses challenges for national security as it can actually influence the public opinion. It can even destabilize the government in most of the cases and also alters the course of conflicts. And the use of AI in creating and spreading the disinformation also adds to the further layer of complexity to traditional methods of countering misinformation, okay? Now moving on, let us look at the cybersecurity challenges. So there has been increasing frequency and sophistication of cyber attacks. So not only is the disinformation or the deepfake sophisticated, the cyber attacks and the nature of crimes that are actually taking place through cyber means are also increasing. So the year 2024 has seen a surge in the cyber attacks targeting critical infrastructure. So what do you mean by critical infrastructure? This is nothing but it is a collection of systems, or these are networks, and also these are public works that the governments actually consider essential for the functioning and the safety of its citizens. Okay, so these are the critical infrastructure. It can be the telecommunication networks, etc. Okay. And also, as I told you, in 2024, there has been a surge in the cyber attacks, and this has specifically targeted these kind of critical infrastructure, the businesses as well as the individuals. For example, you can see the incident involving a massive outage caused by the Microsoft Windows recently, where it actually hampered the travels everywhere, specifically the aviation sector. And this serves as a stark reminder of the potential disruptions the cyber attacks can actually cause, even without malicious intent. Okay. The next one is historical precedents of cyber crimes or cyber threats. That is, so past cyber attack incidences such as the WannaCry ransomware attack in 2017, which actually infected over 230,000 computers in around 150 countries. Very, very important. And also, if you see the Stuxnet attack in 2010, this actually targeted Iran's nuclear program. So this highlights the devastating impact of cyber threats on the global scale. Now moving forward, let us understand what is the growing cyber fraud and identity theft, okay? So cyber fraud and identity theft have also become very, very widespread, with individuals and businesses increasingly falling victim to, terms such as phishing, the spamming, as well as other forms of digital frauds. All these are very, very important because these can be asked as one-liners in your prelims examination as well. And these cyber crimes pose a persistent threat to the personal as well as the financial security. Now moving forward, let us look into the national security implications of these kind of digital threats. First one, AI and cyber threats as tools of modern warfare. See, if you see the ongoing conflict in Ukraine, this demonstrates how AI-enabled disinformation and these kind of cyber attacks can be weaponized in order to disrupt the critical infrastructure and also to spread false narratives. And these digital threats are now integral to modern warfare, posing significant challenges to the national security. The next one, it impacts the critical infrastructure, of course, such as the telecommunications, the power grids, and other essential services that have far-reaching consequences. And this not only affects the national security, but also the economic stability as well as the safety of the public. Now moving forward, there will be erosion definitely of the public trust, okay? So the spread of disinformation and the increasing nature of the cyber attacks can undermine the public trust in the institutions. People can actually lose faith in their respective governments and can even democratic processes. And this erosion of trust is a crucial and critical national security concern, as it can lead to social unrest as well as destabilization of the government. Now moving forward, what can be the way forward to all this? First one, there has to be advanced cybersecurity technologies. This means that it is essential to invest in cutting-edge cybersecurity technologies, including AI-driven threat detection systems, robust encryption methods, as well as advanced firewalls, so that you actually detect and you actually weed away these kind of crimes in the beginning itself before it is actually spread. Okay. Next thing is global cooperation. That is, given the borderless nature of the digital threats, global cooperation is necessary in order to combat the cybercrime and the disinformation effectively. Next one, there has to be digital literacy as well as public awareness. Here, educating the public about the risks associated with the digital threats and how to protect themselves from these cybercrimes is actually very, very crucial. Initiatives aimed at improving the digital literacy can empower the individuals in order to recognize these kind of threats as well as to respond to cyber threats and disinformation. Next one, responsible development of artificial intelligence should be there. That is, ethical means should actually be followed. Here, governments and the organizations must actually come together and they must work in order to create frameworks that promote the responsible use of artificial intelligence while minimizing its potential for harm. And finally, the public-private partnership should be there. By working together, the PPP, they can actually develop comprehensive strategies and formulations for cyber defense, enhance the information sharing, as well as coordinate responses to cyber incidents. The next article that we'll be discussing about is a very important topic, that is, even a woman can be booked as a perpetrator of child sexual abuse, says High Court in one of the POCSO case ruling. Okay, so in this particular article, it is very important for us to understand various aspects, dimensions, and the provisions and salient features of this particular POCSO Act, that is, Prevention of Children from Sexual Offences Act of 2012, as well as what do you mean by child sex abuse. Okay, so this is also what we'll actually understand, and this entire topic is actually mapped to GS paper 2 for the mains examination. Vulnerable sections of the society, government policies, as well as interventions. Now moving forward, there has been a previous year question asked in the mains examination in 2016 with respect to that of the National Child Policy, and they've asked us to throw light on the status of its implementation. So any kind of policies, the draft regulations or the frameworks or international agreements that India has signed specifically with respect to that of the vulnerable sections of the population, like the physically disabled person, or the mentally challenged people, the old age people, women, children, etc., become very, very important, especially the schemes related to that brought up by India, as well as how far India has actually progressed in it, etc., becomes very, very important for both your prelims as well as the mains examination. Now moving forward, let us understand what this particular article is discussing about. So recently, the Delhi High Court actually ruled that women can also be charged with the offence of penetrative sexual assault under POCSO, that is, Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012, and that the law is not limited only to male offenders. Okay, finally, the court has actually declared that this is actually gender neutral. So even a woman can actually be booked or can actually be charged with the offence of penetrative sexual assault under POCSO. Now moving forward, let us further understand what did the Delhi High Court actually say and what was its ruling. The court emphasized that the POCSO Act was actually enacted in order to protect the children from the sexual offences regardless of the gender of the offender. Whether it is a male or whether it is a female, that actually does not matter. The court dismissed a recent plea by a female accused who argued that the offence could only be committed by a man, by clarifying that the use of the pronoun he in the act actually does not restrict the offence only to that of men. So this is what the court has actually said, that irrespective of the gender, this actually applies to whether the convict or the offender is a male or a female. The court concluded that the accused must face trial under the act for the offences charged, including the charge of penetrative sexual assault and the aggravated penetrative sexual assault. So now we will actually understand what do you mean by the sexual assault, what do you mean by penetrative sexual assault, as well as aggravated sexual assault. So first of all, what do you mean by sexual assault? Sexual assault is a broad term that refers to any form of non-consensual sexual contact or activity. That is, if any person is actually touched or behaved without a proper consent. So this is called, and this can actually range from unwanted touching to heinous crimes like rape. So this is what is called as sexual assault. Now moving forward, let us understand what do you mean by aggravated sexual assault. So this is nothing but it typically involves more coercive or violent behavior by the offender on the victim than the sexual assault. This might actually be characterized by usage of a weapon, or targeting the vulnerable victims, or causing serious injury to the victim are factors that can actually elevate the sexual assault to an aggravated sexual assault. Now moving forward, let us understand what is the background of this particular POCSO Act. Why did it actually, come into existence? How was it implemented? And what are the various salient features of this particular legislation? So, the POCSO Act was actually passed in the year 2012 to comprehensively deal with the issue of sexual offences against children. Also, POCSO not only spells out the punishments for the offences, so not only does it actually punish the offender for the offences he or she has committed, but also sets out a system for support to the victims and improved methods for catching the offenders. And if you see, India has actually one of the largest population of children, and also as per the census 2011, it shows that India has a population of nearly 472 million children below the age of 18. And protection of these children by the state is also guaranteed to the Indian citizens. If you actually expansively read this provision of Article 21 under the Constitution of India, it is actually mandated that protection to children is very, very important, and also mandated given India's status as a signatory to the UN Convention on the Rights of Child. So India also happens to be the signatory of UN Convention on the Rights of Child. Now moving forward, let us understand what are the various definitions that are actually given for various crimes like sexual assault, etc. under the POCSO Act. The first one is sexual assault. This is actually defined as any act with any kind of a sexual intent that involves any act of physical contact without penetration. Even if you actually touch or even if you rape, that is actually called as a sexual assault. And it includes touching the vagina, that is your private parts, the penis, the anus or the breast of a child, or making the child touch these parts of another person. So all this, okay, whether it is, you inflict on that person or make the person actually do that for you, or any kind of sexual favor that you get without the consent, that is actually called as sexual assault as per the definition under the POCSO Act. Now moving forward, what does the Act actually talk about this particular term, sexual harassment? This actually occurs when a person with sexual intent utters any kind of a word, makes any sound, gestures, or exhibits any part of the body or an object intending that child hears or sees it. So this is called as sexual harassment. Or if the offender makes a child exhibit his body or any part of it so that it can be seen by that person or another, or showing any object to a child in any form or media for pornographic purposes, that is any kind of images, photographs, videos, etc. Or if the offender repeatedly follows, watches or contacts a child directly or through electronic or digital means, or threatens to use in any form of media real or fabricated descriptions of the child in sexual acts, and finally entices a child for pornographic purposes or gives the gratification thereof. So this is actually the definition of sexual harassment as per the POCSO Act. Now moving forward, what is the definition of child pornography under POCSO Act? Is that this includes any kind of a visual depiction of sexually explicit conduct involving a child, such as in the form of photographs, it can be videos, digital or computer generated images that are indistinguishable from an actual child. And also this includes images created, adapted or modified appear to depict a child. Okay. Now moving forward, let us understand what are the salient features of this particular POCSO Act. The first one, it actually keeps the confidentiality of the victim's identity. That is, the POCSO Act mandates non-disclosure of a child victim's identity so that you protect them from social stigma and victimization. So this actually ensures confidentiality unless explicitly permitted in the special court. The next one, gender neutral provisions. As you see, the act is actually gender neutral, offering equal protection to both the male and the female child victims of sexual offences. Okay, so it is not only pertained or restricted to female or girl children. Next one, mandatory reporting of the sexual offences. Here, the act makes it mandatory for the individuals who have knowledge of such offences in order to report them to the authorities, and this actually aims to ensure that the offences are addressed very quickly, rapidly and swiftly, and the victims actually receive the necessary support. The next one, it actually has provisions of child-friendly legal processes. That is, the Act stipulates the children-friendly procedures right from reporting, recording the evidence, investigation, as well as the trial of the offences. This includes recording the statement of the child at a place of their choice, okay, whether under custody or whether at home or whatever it is, preferably by a female police officer in plain clothes, ensuring the child is not exposed to the accused during the trial, and also allowing for the presence of trusted person during the recording of the statement. Very, very important. Next one, it actually, gives a provision for establishment of special courts. So here, POCSO Act mandates the establishment of special courts in order to ensure speedy trial of the cases under the Act. And the next one is last seen theory application. What does this mean? In cases where the child or the victim was last seen with the suspect, then the suspect can be assumed to be the perpetrator if the time gap between being seen and the occurrence of the crime is actually minimal, making it unlikely for someone else to have committed the offense. The next one, there are actually various guidelines for the institutions where it actually, entrusts the responsibilities of institutions housing the children to report the case of abuse, particularly highlighting the vulnerability of children with disabilities. And finally, there are severe penalties where the POCSO Act prescribes stringent punishments ranging from simple to rigorous imprisonment of various terms depending on the nature and the gravity of the offence, ensuring that the severity of the crime is adequately addressed. The next article that we'll be discussing about is Naveen urges Centre to continue the support to UNESCO Kalinga Prize. So this particular article, we'll be discussing about what is this particular prize that is named as the UNESCO Kalinga Prize, and what are the different awards and what are their, fields that it is actually associated with, as well as the center-state relations aspects will be discussed here. And this particular topic can actually be mapped to prelims as well as mains examination under GS Paper 1, Art and Culture, and GS Paper 2, that is challenges pertaining to the federal structure. Okay. So moving forward, there has been a previous year question that was asked in the prelims examination in the year 2015 with respect to that of Indira Gandhi Prize for Peace, Disarmament and Development for 2014 was actually given to which of the following. So these kind of awards, the institution or the organization that these are actually awarded to and for what purpose, the category to be eligible for the award, all this becomes very, very important, particularly for your prelims examination. Now let us understand what this particular article is discussing about. So, the Science and Technology Ministry of India has actually withdrawn its contribution to the UNESCO Kalinga Prize for the popularization of science. So, here you need to understand that this particular UNESCO Kalinga Prize has actually been, given for popularization of science. And so, the central government, that is particularly the Ministry of Science and Technology, has been contributing to it, but now they have decided to withdraw their contribution, okay? So, the withdrawal as stated by the central government is part of a broader decision made by the government in order to rationalize all the science awards, okay? So, this actually includes replacing the previous awards like the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Awards with the newly introduced Rashtriya Vigyan Puraskar, okay? Now, it is very, very important that you actually know or have a hang of all these awards and for what purposes and for which fields, like for example, whether it's medical science or whether it's journalism, it's arts, etc., for which it's actually been awarded, okay? Now, moving forward, it is important for us to understand about this UNESCO Kalinga Prize. This is nothing but it is for the popularization of science, and it is one of the most prestigious international awards aimed at recognizing exceptional contributions to the popularization of science. And this particular prize, that is the UNESCO Kalinga Prize, UNESCO's oldest award, okay? So, it happens to be one of UNESCO's oldest award, and this was actually instituted in the year 1951 through a donation by Odisha's former Chief Minister, Mr. Biju Patnaik. And the award is named after the ancient Kalinga kingdom, which also has its association with that of Odisha. What are the prize components under this award? The first one, the cash award, is actually given. Here it carries a monetary award, which as of recent years is around 40,000 USD, okay, that is US dollars. And also Kalinga chair is actually given. That is, the award also includes the Kalinga chair, which is an additional cash component of rupees $5,000 USD. That is, the Kalinga chair is intended for a residency at an institution of the laureate's choice. Whoever wins it, they can actually make a choice where they can continue their work in the field of science communication. So the medal as well as the certificate is also given apart from the chair as well as the cash award. Here the laureate also receives a UNESCO Albert Einstein Silver Medal as well as a certificate. Okay. Now, if you see more about the news, why this particular topic and award was in the news, the Science Ministry, as I actually told you, had been supporting the Kalinga Prize since 2001. And it has also the international significance, that is the UNESCO Kalinga Prize is the only international award from India for the popularization of science, making it a coveted prize and also a symbol of Odia identity on the international stage. Okay. And also now we need to understand what are the other famous prizes as well as their fields from which they actually contribute. The first one is Pulitzer Prize, which is actually related to journalism as well as arts. Then you have the Booker Prize or the Man Booker Prize, which is actually related to the field of literature. Next is the Fields Medal for mathematics, the Turing Award for computer science, as well as the Lasker Award, which is given for medical research. The next article that we'll be discussing about is IIT Madras retains top spot in the NIRF ranking for the 6th consecutive year. So as the title suggests, we'll be looking into what is this particular NIRF ranking, what is the methodology that is used for ranking the educational institutions in India, etc. So here we'll be looking into the aspect of the National Institutional Ranking Framework, which is the NIRF, and also this particular topic can be mapped to both the prelims as well as the mains examination under GS paper 2, issues relating to the development and management of social sector services relating to that of education. Moving forward, if you see, there has been a question which was asked in the 2016 prelims examination with respect to India's ranking in the EODV, that is the Ease of Doing Business Index. Okay. So similarly, India's ranking in different indices as well as what has been the performance of India. And here with respect to that of NIRF ranking, what has been the ranking of Indian educational institutions, what is the concept of institutes of eminence, etc. becomes very, very important for your preliminary examination. Now moving forward, let us understand what this particular article is discussing about. So, the National Institutional Ranking Framework is actually an initiative by the Ministry of Education aimed at ranking the higher educational institutions across the country. And here, this was actually launched or it came into inception in the year 2015 and it provides for a comprehensive assessment based on various parameters. Okay. So now let us understand about this NIRF. So this NIRF, that is the National Institution Ranking Framework, assesses the institutions based on 5 broad parameters. So these parameters are very, very important. The first parameter is teaching, learning and resources. That is actually 30%. And next one is research and professional practice. That is 30%. Graduation outcomes, which is 20%. Outreach and inclusivity, another 10%. And finally, it's the perception, which is 10%. Okay. So the framework holistically emphasizes on the bibliometric measures. So what do you mean by bibliometric measures? These are quantitative measures that are influenced by certain external factors or characteristics. Okay. So what are the bibliometric measures? These include the publication counts, that is the number of publication this particular institution has actually done, and the citation impact, that actually measures how often the publication are actually cited by the other researchers, etc. And this has been applied annually since its inception in 2015. So what do you mean by the publication count that I actually told you here? It refers to the total number of research papers or the articles that have been published by an institution, reflecting on the research productivity. Next one, the citation impact. This actually talks about how often these publications are cited by other researchers, indicating the influence as well as the quality of the research that has been produced by this particular institution. Now, the rankings are actually conducted by the National Board of Accreditation, that is actually the NBA, and include a wide range of categories such as the overall rankings, the specific disciplines, and the categories for new institutions like open universities as well as skill universities. Okay. Now, if you have to know about what is this NBA, it is an autonomous body under the Ministry of Education, and NBA is actually responsible for accrediting the higher educational programs, particularly in engineering as well as technology. Next, if you actually look at what have been the key takeaways or the highlights of the NIRF 2024 ranking, the top institutions include where IIT Madras retained its position as India's top educational institution for the 6th consecutive year and the top spot in engineering for the 9th year. And also, Indian Institute of Science located in Bengaluru continued to lead as the best university and research institution. And if you see category leaders, here IIM Ahmedabad remained the top management institute for the 5th year, and AIIMS New Delhi actually led in medical sciences, as well as Jamia Hamdard in New Delhi was recognized as the best pharmacy college. If you see new categories, the 2024 rankings introduced the open universities as well as the concept of skill universities as well as the state public universities categories, with Anna University located in Tamil Nadu, Chennai as well as IGNOU, New Delhi actually leading in their respective categories. And also, if you look at the institutional participation, over 6,500 institutions participated in the ranking, submitting more than 10,000 applications, highlighting the growing importance of this NIRF rankings in India in order to increase the credibility of these educational institutions. Now, having looked at what is the NIRF, the methodology, etc., now it is important for us to analyze what are the key issues with this particular ranking. First is the over-reliance on the bibliometrics, okay, that is the data which is based on the external factors. Here, the NIRF's emphasis on the bibliometric measures such as publication counts and citations has been actually criticized for sidelining other forms of intellectual contributions, okay. So, this has been entirely quantitative and they feel that the qualitative aspect is actually missing. So, this focus may encourage the institution to prioritize quantity over quality in the research output. Next one, transparency and methodology concerns. So, there is a perceived lack of transparency in the process of ranking, with institutions and stakeholders calling for more detailed information on the methodology, the data sources, as well as the weightage assigned to different indicators. Also, there has been an inclination or an urban bias. Here, the rankings have been criticized for an urban bias with a scant presence of rural institutions in the top 100. So, if you see the number of institutions in the top 100, it has been inclined towards the urban institution. This actually highlights the need for greater support and the development of educational institutions in the rural areas. Also, there has been limited participation. Despite the growing number of institutions participating in the ranking, it has been observed that only about 12% of higher educational institutions in India are involved, and this actually raises the questions about the inclusivity as well as the representativeness of the educational institutions in India. Now, moving forward, what can be the way forward? The first one is to improve the comprehensiveness and the fairness of this ranking. It is crucial to move beyond a sole reliance on these quantitative measures. The next one, there has to be more holistic assessment of the institutional performance. Additionally, there has to be enhanced transparency in the ranking methodologies. And finally, there is an urgent need for the quality enhancement across India's higher education system, which requires substantial financial resources and funding, as well as it needs to have a strategic planning in order to compete globally. The next article that we'll be discussing about is the technology that helps the vehicles from bumping into each other. So, in this particular article, we'll be discussing about the CAS system, that is nothing but the collision avoidance system, as well as the Kavach system, which is used in the Indian Railways in order to promote anti-collision. Also, this particular topic is actually relevant for the mains examination under GS Paper 3, Science and Technology, Developments and Applications of Technology and Their Effects in Everyday Life. Now, moving forward, if you see, there has been a previous year question asked in the year 2022 in the prelims examination with respect to that of the following communication technology and which of the above are considered as short-range devices or technologies. So, such kind of innovation and technological advancements are very, very important, specifically for your prelims examination. Now moving forward, let us understand what this particular article is discussing about, okay? So, the CAS, that is the collision avoidance system, are in news very frequently considering the heavy traffic as well as increasing chances of collision of vehicles over time. Now, let us understand what is this CAS, that is the collision avoidance system. As the name suggests, these are nothing but they are safety mechanisms which are designed in order to prevent the vehicles from colliding with each other by providing them the real-time data about what are the relative positions of other vehicles surrounding your particular vehicle and issuing the warnings or any kind of automatic signals or automatic corrective actions. So, this technology is widely used in road vehicles, in trains, ships, and even in aviation, that is the aircrafts, each adopted or adapted to unique requirements of its environment. Now, moving forward, let us see how does this particular anti-collision or the collision avoidance system actually works. So, this particular CAS operate by continuously monitoring a vehicle's surroundings using sensors. Okay, the sensors can be radar, it can be lidar, and the cameras. And the system integrates this data in order to assess the collision risks using various kinds of algorithms in order to evaluate the likelihood of the impact. Also, in case if a threat by another vehicle or another aircraft is actually detected, this CAS alerts the driver through the visual or auditory signals. Also, in critical situations, it can automatically intervene by applying the brakes, adjusting the steering, or also controlling the speed in order to avoid a potential collision. An advanced CAS may also communicate with other vehicles V2V or infrastructure, that is called V2I, to coordinate actions in complex traffic scenarios. Now moving forward, we need to understand what are the application of the CAS across different modes of transport, okay, be it the land-based vehicles or aviation or maritime. First is the land-based vehicles. In cars and trains, this CAS actually helps avoid accidents by providing forward collision warnings, the lane departure alerts, as well as the emergency braking. Lane departure is which lane you need to follow on the road. Next one, these systems are increasingly being integrated with autonomous driving technologies. Okay, so this actually comes automatically installed in your vehicle itself. Next one, in case of aviation or aircraft, the CAS is actually critical for preventing the mid-air collisions, and for that you can actually take this particular TCAS as an example, where it is a traffic collision avoidance system. This actually keeps the pilots warned of potential collisions and also suggests what are the evasive actions that the pilots can take mid-air. Next one is maritime. Here also, ships actually use the collision avoidance system in order to avoid collisions at sea, which is crucial given the vast and often congested nature of the international shipping lanes. And these systems help in maintaining safe distances between the maritime ships and the cargoes and navigating through crowded waters. Now moving forward, it is important for us to understand about Kavach, which is an indigenous automatic train protection system which has been adopted by the Indian Railways. Okay, so Kavach is actually India's rail collision advanced system. It is an indigenous automatic train protection, that is the ATP system developed by the Indian Railways. It is designed in order to prevent the train collisions by automatically controlling the speed of the trains and applying the emergency brakes if a potential collision is actually detected. Also, it actually uses a combination of GPS, the RFID, as well as the radio communication in order to monitor the movement of the train in real time. Moving forward, it also includes the signal passing at danger, that is the SPAD protection. And this SPAD protection ensures that the trains stop automatically if they are about to cross a red signal. And also, this system is particularly important in the densely populated as well as complex Indian railway network, where human errors can actually lead to catastrophic accidents. Now let us solve few prelims as well as the mains practice questions. The first question reads, which of the following statements about the National Institutional Ranking Framework NIRF is or are correct? The first statement, the NIRF ranking include a specific category for open universities. Yes, this is correct. And the NIRF methodology emphasizes the perception of the institution as one of the ranking parameters. Yes, this is also correct. The third statement reads, NIRF rankings are mandatory for all the higher education institutions in India. This is actually wrong. Since statements 1 and 2 are correct, the correct answer will be option A. Now moving on to the second question, what is Kavach as mentioned in the context of collision avoidance system? Whether it is a maritime collision avoidance system used in international waters, this is wrong. A type of radar used in aviation for collision avoidance, this is also wrong. An indigenous automatic train protection system developed by the Indian Railways to prevent the train collisions, this is actually correct. And the next one is a vehicle communication system for avoiding road accidents, this is also wrong. So since the statement C is actually correct, the correct answer will be option C. Now moving on to the third question. Which of the following statements about the CAS, that is the collision avoidance system, is true? CAS only provide warnings to the drivers but do not take automatic corrective actions. This is wrong. CAS are designed to enhance vehicle entertainment and comfort features. This is also wrong. CAS continuously monitor a vehicle's surroundings and can automatically intervene in order to prevent collisions. This is actually correct. The last statement is CAS are only used in aviation and not in other modes of transportation. This is actually wrong. So since statement C is correct, the correct answer will be option C. Now moving on to the fourth question. Which of the following statements regarding the UNESCO Kalinga Prize for popularization of science is actually correct? The Kalinga Prize was established through a donation by Biju Patnaik, the former Chief Minister of Odisha. This is actually correct. And the UNESCO Kalinga Prize is awarded for the contributions to environmental science. This is actually wrong, and it is awarded biennially. So this is actually wrong. So since only statement 1 is correct, the correct answer will be option A. The last prelims question. Consider the following statements with reference to that of the POCSO Act, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. The Act contains provisions for death penalty for certain sexual offences against children. Yes, this is correct. The Act provides for the child to provide their statement at a place of their choice. This is also correct. So, which of the following statements above is or are correct? Since both the statements are correct, the correct answer will be option C. Now moving forward, let us actually solve the mains practice question. The question reads, examine the evolving landscape of digital threats globally and discuss their implications for national security. It is a 10 marker. So the approach answer for this particular question is actually divided into 3. That is the introduction, the body, as well as the conclusion. And in the introduction, we will actually briefly define the digital threats and underscore their relevance to the global security. And towards the body, we'll actually give an overview of the digital threats, that is identify major threats like the cyber attacks, the AI-driven misinformation, as well as deep fakes. Also, we will cite specific global incidents like the ransomware attack as well as the Stuxnet attack, etc., demonstrating the impact. Next, we will actually move on to describe the national security implications that is actually brought about by discussing how these threats affect the national security, including the public trust erosion as well as critical infrastructure vulnerabilities. And finally, we'll be discussing about the strategic responses where we will actually outline what are the effective strategies such as international cooperation, as well as there's a need for technological innovations to combat these threats, okay? And towards the conclusion, we will conclude the answer with the necessity for ongoing advancements in cybersecurity measures as well as global policy collaborations. So with this, we've actually come to the end of our discussion of our daily news analysis. For further updates as well as live videos, please do like, share and subscribe to Narayana IAS Academy YouTube channel. Thank you.